Alright, y'all, back with another paid review. This time we're reviewing an American style comic book, not so much as a manga, but ironically, the story takes place in feudal Japan, right? So it's pretty interesting. Anyway, how we judge things here at Coffee Comics, as you know, we use the Coffee Comics standard and we look at these ingredients over here. Having all four ingredients means you have a great product. Now, of course, since this is a comic book, not a manga, I will still judge it according to the MANAA ingredients because these are actually universal principles in order to create the best story for consumers to enjoy, right? Um, Ultimately, though, right off the bat, I will say that this story does have two out of the four, but what actually hurts it the most is just how tremendously unlikable the main character is. And you'll see why. He starts off somewhat likable because you feel sorry for him to some extent. You feel you relate to him to some extent, but then he turns into this sneaky, arrogant, vicious, somewhat prick, really. And from then on, he's just not likable. He suddenly becomes a stranger. He suddenly no longer becomes relatable, right? It starts off familiar and relatable, and then it turns into something different. So that's one of the problems we're going to be seeing. So in terms of hopefulness, as of now, it does not present any type of hope that you would approve of, and you'll see what I mean by that. And no element of inspiring as of yet either. This is a type of story where we're gonna have to get the whole story to be complete in order to feel inspired, in order to feel hopeful, seeing what the main character does at the very end. Now, because this is an American style comic book, the artistic style and ranking system that I use isn't so much so applicable here, really. And I'm struggling even to figure out under which rank could I put it under. But I would say the closest would be C rank. And C rank is pretty much the artistic rank where your style stands out the most. There are a few mistakes, but the style, right? The stylization of the characters, of all the visuals supersedes all the mistakes where you can just, well, ignore it. You can still enjoy it for what it is. So also, we'll have a look at the art style here of the old school Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, right? I don't know if y'all have watched this one, but this is my favorite adaptation of the Ninja Turtles, the 2004 one. The familiarity comes from this, in which I look at the art here. Now, the first three, I would say the first three chapters here remind me of the 2004 Ninja Turtle animation, right? The way the human designs are illustrated as well. It reminds me of this style. So I was like, oh, a bit of nostalgia here, This is familiar to me. I'm gonna give it a chance. And this is something every author needs to ask themselves all the time. I mean, I say it all the time, that who's your target market? Who is your target market? Now, this 100% is not catered to manga consumers at all. And manga is more popular than American style comic books right now. And I'm not quite sure why the author decided to go with this art style. I'm not too sure. But if it was intentional that he wants to cater to American style comic book consumers, then so be it. But understand that that market is very, very low, right? It's very, very low. So if there's an understanding of the target market that it's specifically American style consumers, then okay, cool, no problem. If that was not the case, in which you most likely wanted all types of comic book consumers to even like it, well, that's going into the whole we're creating a product for everyone. No, you can't do that. You got to cater to one specific market, right? So let's get into it then. So the art, as I said, this is C rank, but I will say that the art style and the artistic skill level changes completely in the last chapter. It's as if they changed artists. And that's a bit of a problem, to be honest, because I'm used to reading manga, right? And by reading manga, I am constantly expecting that the art is going to keep its consistency in its design, in its rendering, because one artist is working on it. If he has assistants, they have to cater their skills to how the original artist renders everything. So here, there was a break in my immersion because the art style you see in these first couple of pages is not what you're going to be seeing in the last chapter. The rendering style is not going to be the same either, you see. So anyway, the story takes place in Japan in the 1600s, and basically a bunch of samurai and warlords are fighting for territory, right? So it starts off by saying, after defeating, man, my Japanese pronunciation ain't all that, right? And I will say that a lot of information was not really necessary. And you'll see what I mean by that. I wanted us to get to the point of things. There was a feeling of world building here, but not really. It was trying to establish a lot of context for us, right? But it didn't have to go as deeply as it went. It just felt unnecessary. I will say that the paneling style is very creative and very good, right? Like in this panel over here, notice the sword, right? And these samurai are about to commit seppuku. But anyway, so it's the 1600s in Japan. There was a great war that just took place, and some losing samurai had to, well, commit seppuku because they lost the battle, and this is the only way to maintain honor for their family. And on to the next page. So then came one shogun. Is he a shogun? Well, one warlord. Let's just call him a warlord who established. And this part right here, this cements everything about this entire narrative, right? It's called Ita. So if we read here, it says, now with his power consolidated, Tokugawa declared himself shogun and supreme lord of all of Japan. He ushered in the most strict of caste societies where those born poor died poor. Now in this moment, I was starting to be like, oh yeah, let's go into this idea. Are we going to be exploring this idea? And why did I feel so excited about this idea of great disparity between rich and poor? Well, because that's kind of what's happening right now. We see big tech, big business totally cutting down and screwing over small business, right, and medium business, and we can thank COVID for doing that as well, accelerating that. So I was like, oh man, this is going to be a good read. We're going to be exploring all kinds of ideas. Is it possibly going to be about a main character who wants to rise above his condemnation to the lower class, and how he's going to rise? How's that going to look like? Well, it doesn't look like any basic fairy tale. I will say that it is fairly realistic. It's just the main character executes everything in such a gruesome way where you just cannot like him, you know. Continues to say the lowest of this society were Ita, right? The butchers, tanners, and Sogia, considered defiled and tainted. Now, this whole story is called Ita. So the lowest is the Ita. And, well, that's what the whole story is about. This is somebody born under the Ita system, and he wants to go beyond that. That's something that we kind of trying to do right now. Our social class, some of us are like in the gutter and would like to change that, but because the world isn't based on merit anymore, well, it's going to be rather impossible to change that. But because in feudal Japan at the time, oh, you could change that because it was a merit system. And it reminds me of the manga Kingdom. If you guys haven't read Kingdom, check it out. I haven't read all of it. That thing's like 800 chapters. But ultimately, in the beginning, it's the same thing, where the main characters at the bottom of the food chain, absolute gutter rats. But the system in old school China allowed gutter rats to rise to a better social class because they could be, well, good warriors and serve the emperor very well, and so they could rise. So, and those characters in Kingdom are likable, right? They don't have this gruesomeness that you're going to see, this two-facedness that you're going to see over here, right? I gotta bring that up because it was really unpleasant, really unpleasant. Continues to say many fates were changed in the aftermath of feudal Japan's last major battle. 1 year earlier, we finally get introduced to the main character, Seiki, and this is before this new shogun took over. And we're given some context as to, well, what he actually wants to achieve and so on. And, I got behind this idea, his dream to be, well, a shogun or a daimyo. I'm not sure what a daimyo is. I think it's like second in command. I'm not sure. I wish you put translations in English at the bottom, bro. Like over here, the same way you did to put like your Golden Tree Publishing, which, by the way, gets in the way of the actual artwork sometimes. That would have helped to just let us know what a daimyo is. What does shogun actually mean? I mean, a lot of us watch anime here, but we didn't actually do the homework, right? So the narrator says Seiki was always afraid of the dark, a trait unbecoming of a samurai. Then he says to himself, I haven't followed the path of Buddha, but tonight I ask for finality. I have persevered from the low to realize my moment, my dream. Cool. Then his master comes in and saying, yo, Seiki, tomorrow you too will be daimyo. I will make sure of it. And Seiki says he's humble. And his master says, collect many heads on behalf of our Han. With victory, we shall be given a large domain. You're the son I never had. You've done good. Now, immediately, man, I really liked his master over here, Uchida. I really did. Especially we're about to get a flashback of how these two met, and to my great disappointment, what happens to Uchida and what Seiki does. I was like, just like that, immediately I lost respect for Seiki, right? He's the type of character that I actually want to see him get gutted at the end of the story so far. So he says, rest well, tomorrow we fight. I'll make you proud, says Seiki. Then he says, one step closer to my dream, one step closer to achieving the impossible. I could sense the desperation here, right? And I was like, yeah, man, I can relate. I can relate. So he then has a nightmare of days past in his youth. Who's there? Mother, is that you? He hears all kinds of pig noises. And we see the head of a pig getting totally split. The narrator says, since a young boy, the screams of the pigs and animals at night gave Seiki nightmares. Born Ita, the son of a butcher, this is all he would ever know. Man, this hit hard for me because, again, I can relate, bro. This is, I thought, in a way, this story would be trying to explore the ideas of determinism, trying to destroy the idea of determinism, the idea of being condemned in your circumstance. That is there a different way to change your circumstance? Has it been determined that I'm just going to rot here? Now, fate had a different idea in which he didn't have to stay in the gutter space as he was born in over here, because he then becomes adopted by Uchida, right? But to me, as somebody who's explored these themes of determinism and circumstances and so on, I expected a bit more. I mean, that's a bit unfair, I suppose. But I just initially thought that, oh man, we're going to be exploring these themes like crazy. The tormented screams of the animals, just as condemned as he was. Man, I could just feel it over there. Dad, is that you? Mom, Dad, what's that noise? And oink, oink, oink. A giant pig scares the life out of him, right? So, dude wakes up from his nightmare. It's the next day. Today was the day Seiki hoped to put an end to his nightmares. Uchida, unable to have a child, named Seiki his most skilled swordsman, his number two. I was like, great, this is cool. How lucky are you to have like a cool warrior stepfather who saw potential in you and adopted you and trained you and gave you direction. That's what I'm talking about. But Seiki then pulls a hunchback move on the battlefield. You know, but this is that real life. I like how realistic it is. Seiki does make real life decisions, just unpleasant ones. You know, like he's a complete bastard, right? So again, he's not really hero material. He's not inspiring. He's not a good role model. And that's the whole point of creating stories, right? Is to lead by example, to show people the error of your possible ways. If this is going to serve as a cautionary tale, not to end up as Seiki, well, you would have to put a couple of seeds throughout the chapters in which Seiki is wrestling with his bad attitude, you know, his decision making of screwing people over. There has to be a display of his struggling, of his guilt for some of the decisions he makes. But there isn't a single display of that. It's just pure selfishness. You know, if Seiki was female and put in this exact scenario and he made these exact decisions, a lot of people would have been like, yeah, this is that girl boss energy that we see in Hollywood. In other words, it's an unrealistic character. It's actually an insufferable character. You see, luckily he doesn't talk so much. He ain't out there trying to show off that much, right? In a very performative way, but ultimately he's too slimy. You know, he's way too slimy. So he puts on his armor. After today, surely I will be named successor to the Uchida house. And it's 5,000 koku. See, I don't know what koku is, bro. Is that hectares? I don't know. This is my dream. I was like, okay, cool. Dude, that's his dream. Great. And this is something I always say, that you all better tell us what your main character wants to achieve in the first chapter, but usually in the first 10 pages. This is page 13, close enough, right? This is his dream. Cool. Then they are all on the field and they're having some battle talk and so on, talking about the plan that they have to initiate, that they have this other team up on the hill who's going to help them outflank the enemy. But the team on the hill is not really loyal to Uchida. They are going to help the one that seems to be winning. So go figure, right? They are somewhat outnumbered, but in the end, they end up losing the battle. So onwards to battle and charge. Here they go. It's some pretty cool, battle scenes. So, but I gotta say, the amount of grayscale in this story. Now, this is an American style comic book, right? Usually we expect it to be in color. It's fine if it's not, but the amount of grayscale up in this really hurts the contrast game, right? If we take a look at one of the Coffee Comics artistic styles and standards here passable is not the abandoning of professional standards, but the simplification. One of the key things of making your pages stand out is having contrast, right? Making it pop. You can do that by using contrast. With all this gray action, man, there's nothing that actually pops. It's like I'm looking at one panel and another panel and another panel. It's a bit repetitive, you see. Um, there isn't a very good use of negative space. It's as if every space has to be filled with something or filled with gray. That's the problem. Like in this situation, honestly, I wouldn't have put grayscale over here. I would have made the ground black, right? And maybe some cross hatching to signify friction and movement. And then the background here should have been all white, you see. So it is a bit too much grayscale. And so the battle was on, all kinds of violence, Seiki chopping up all kinds of people. And the cannon goes off and he gets blasted away. And he says, Tokugawa's firing on us. I thought you made a deal. He's making us pick a side. If we don't, he'll gun us down, stand and ready the troops. So, yeah, they are pretty much making them pick a side. Awesome use of paneling over here. Very creative, really cool. Never seen this before. Really cool. So, hold your ground. We're overwhelmed. Here comes Kobikawa, the guys on the hill. The tide will now turn as planned. When Kobikawa, okay, that's not his name, but let's just say Koba's troops arrived, they had chosen their side, Tokugawa's. Kobe's attacking us, and so on, and blah, blah, blah. We're too far in for them to reach us. And the battle wages on, but unfortunately, Uchida starts to realize that they are losing here. And one of his generals says we have to flee. And he says we will die like true Bushi, taking as many as we can before we fall. And man, just this moment was so sad, bro. Really. Because here is Uchida. He lost the battle, man. Now he's looking for his adopted son. Seiki, where are you? I felt so bad for the dude. I mean, such moments you don't really get this in real life that much, where there's going to be a honorable, powerful man that's going to adopt your broke ass and make you somebody. Well, make you a somebody. I mean, I understand Seiki ran because he didn't want to die. He saw that he was going to lose, but I don't know, bro. I would at least try to take Uchida and run away with him, right? But oh well, it happens. The dude just wanted to live, but man, this was sad. So congrats on actually making me feel something over here, right? Calling out to him, nowhere to be found. So be it, he says. And he commits shunpaku or seppaku. I know what must be done, and he does it. Remember how Uchida died with honor. And here is Seiki abandoning his post. Boo, boo. But I understand. So let's go to the second chapter. And here he's running from the battle, severely hurt, who knows how many kilometers. And he finds this house in the woods, up in the mountain. And then he's helped by this woman and the husband, who is a doctor. And they decide to actually help him and take him in. Now, I gotta say, in this part of the dialogue, a lot of it is unnecessary. Really unnecessary. I understand, again, is to give more context. But why I say it's unnecessary is because these characters, the doctor and his wife, are not really so critical to the future of the story. They are critical in Seiki's development in terms of him learning some skills from the doctor. But the way they got so much camera time, it makes you think they're going to be there a bit longer. It makes you think that they are going to serve as some form of a moral compass for Seiki, but not at all. He was just using them. And I'm like, man, don't make me look and read what these other characters are saying if they're not gonna be in the story long term. So they got too much screen time, I would say. Then Seiki has a nightmare or a flashback while he's asleep back in the day when he was a child. And this is actually Yoshida, right? Back in the day when he was a kid. He says, this is the boy who killed the merchant's son, this Ita. The punishment for such is death. But before he cuts him down, he asks, is the boy slow? Many slow children have uncanny strength. He killed the son with one punch. And his parents sell him out, saying, yes, he is slow. Kill him if you must, then let us go. Man, life was cruel as hell, man. Your own parents saying, oh, well, got the boy. Probably just make another one anyway, right? And Uchida says, you lying slut. I can see in the boy's eyes, his mind is intelligent. This is what I'm talking about. You see, this was important to me because I wish that the dictators here would at least honor intelligent people, but they don't. They make sure you're the first one to die. And that's what separates, well, all of Africa to the rest of the world. People here are going to gut intelligent people. They want to burn you at the stake, cut you to pieces, and so on. They don't appreciate intelligence. They see intelligence as a weakness and as a threat. Better a very physically strong, dim-witted monkey boy, right, who's just going to follow orders, but he can't plan for anything. He has no foresight. He has no strategy. That's why you get outflanked and colonized. You see, all because there's no respect for intelligence. So for me, this hit hard, right? Uchida then says, the boy will stay with me. He has unflinching eyes. You are unfit to parent him. I'm like, damn. That's what I'm talking about. This is how it should be. Talented, gifted, intelligent people should be put at the top of the pyramid, not at the bottom. Because right here in the damn jungle, intelligent people are at the bottom, right? They never get given positions, no job, no nothing. Whenever they start their own business, some flipping crazy bastard with a shotgun gonna be like, look, man, you're gonna pay me a tax so that I don't burn your business down. And you're gonna start employing one of my brothers, or else somebody at your house is gonna go missing. This is what happens. They threaten intelligent people. They need intelligent people to do something to piggyback off of them and to tear them down. This is what happens when the world abandons merit. But I really, this is the additional reason I like Uchida, man. Now he's dead, right? Leave this place before I kill you in his stead. And the parents go. What, where, Lord Uchida, he remembers while he's dreaming here. I'm sorry, but to be Lord, my dream could not end there. You raised me, took me from a fate crueler than death, but still I cannot die until I have become a daimyo. See, here there was some humanity in him because we can see the guilt, but it only happened once. It only happened once. So here the doctor and the wife are asking themselves, who is he? Where did he come from? Did he perhaps escape from the battlefield that just happened? Getting all suspicious, right? They question him and he lies about it, saying, no, I'm just a farmer or a butcher, really, and I was attacked by, vagabonds and so on. And the doctor said, oh, okay, well, you got lucky. We'll give you some food so you can go home. And Seiki says, nah, please, let me stay with you. Let me be your student and dedicate myself to you. And the doctor allows it. 6 months later, he's learned a lot, right? It's time to put what he's learned into practice. Cool. And I'm like, Seiki ain't so half bad over here. Until this very moment. Now, number one, I think, bro, you should have put that this book should be rated 18 and above because, there's a sex scene here. And I don't think it was necessary. I don't think it was necessary at all, but this is part of I know it's realistic, I mean, people are just gonna do whatever they want, but if Seiki is supposed to be a hero, I don't know if he's supposed to be a hero. Did you plan to make him a hero? Because he's not a hero now. His humanity left him after having that dream and saying sorry to Uchida. Suddenly he becomes this cold, womanizing type bastard, right? And I don't know, it's really not cool at all. It's not cool. He's behaving like a barbarian that you'd find in the jungle, right? So that is not inspiring. I ain't saying don't, make a move on a hussy. It's just, if you're gonna make a move on a hussy as a hero, you ain't just gonna be going in the bush and dropping pipe and moving on just like that. I mean, heroes don't do that. There got to be a standard. You see what I mean? There has to be a standard of some form of moral quality, moral representation. And we can argue and say, well, if you're going to talk about that Christian morality, bro, it's a new world. Okay, yeah, it's a new world, but what are we replacing it with? With this? Because practically speaking here, I mean, it ain't a good thing to go around getting random women pregnant. That's how all kinds of hunchbacks are born. Angry young men who have no idea who their daddy is. And then they join Al Qaeda trying to find a purpose and a sense of direction. You see what I mean? So, unfortunately, this move here, what we're about to see here, that just made me not like Seiki even more. So, he makes a move on the hussy. This old woman says, so where's your new apprentice? And the doctor says, oh, he doing well. And yeah, hopefully YouTube didn't spot that. So he just finished banging the chick, and the doctor was questioned by wandering samurai looking for Seiki, because there's a rumor that one of them escaped the battlefield and so on. And here we are after the deed. And Seiki says, it was a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Perhaps I shall frequent your stand more often. And she says, I hope so. Let's get those herbs you wanted. And he spots those samurai over there. And she asks, samurai pointing at my stand. And the dude pulls a total psycho grab on the chick. Listen to me, you whore. Pretend we've never met or I'll snap your neck. And the dude just walks away. Now, I want to say that's cool, but she didn't deserve that. Yeah, she's a hussy, but I mean, come on, man. That's the thing. I'm reacting this way and I'm saying what I'm saying because in my mind, this guy's supposed to be a hero, right? He's supposed to be a hero. If he's not, it's hard to get behind the idea that he's just supposed to be a guy who wants to get whatever he wants at any cost. That's very hard to root for somebody like that. It's very hard. Because what are we rooting for? Might makes right? Right? That means me and you who don't have the resources, who are condemned. We're Ita here. Most of us are Ita. So does that mean we have to treat our fellow Itas as disposable garbage because they're weaker than us? You see what I mean? Where's that compassion? Right? Now, you don't have to threaten a hussy like that if you're a hero. But if you're a bastard, man, do whatever the hell you want. So if Seiki here is just a bastard, well, typical. He'll do what a bastard does, right? Gonna threaten a hussy. He'll do whatever the hell. So we get back to the doctor's house and they have some tea and so on. And teaching him a new technique on how to fix somebody and how to paralyze somebody. And so off they go to a different area. And the doctor says, those samurai were looking for you actually. Were they telling the truth or are you lying? Are you not what you told us? And Seiki decides to attack the doctor. And I'm like, yeah, it's over. Dude completely, definitely lost his humanity. I was like, nah, dude's too vicious right now. I don't actually want to read further. I don't want to read further because it's like, what am I reading here? The guy ain't inspiring. He ain't making me want to improve my life. Well, not in a way that is right. Now, in the real world, I agree. You have to be a bastard. You have to be willing to screw people over, right? The problem with that narrative, it is true. The problem is if everybody lives by it, man, 90% of us would have been killed by our neighbor by now, right? Because you're just trying to get yours, right? You're trying to get your bag. In a way, it's like you have to tell peasants good moral stories that give them a moral superiority complex, a virtuous moral complex to actually control the population. I mean, this is part of the paradox of humanity that at the end of the day, most people at the bottom, you have to give them that kumbaya doctrine. Because if you don't, everybody gonna be killing each other. Right? And this is deep, and this is something that I want to be exploring with my own stories. But the problem again is that this story does not make it clear what type of story it is. Is it a cautionary tale that if you are going to live by the sword, you'll eventually die by it, right? Is it a human who goes astray and joins the dark side to get the bag? What it looks like is a guy who ended up turning into a bastard, no longer caring about anything. But so far, nothing hints at the possibility of him getting screwed over or having severe consequences for his actions. We had the part where he felt guilty about abandoning his stepfather. Cool. After that, there was no sense of guilt at all. Not when he threatened the hussy, not when he threatened his new adopted father, the doctor, not at all. And we don't see anything that hints that this guy is digging his own grave with this behavior, thus not showing us that this is a cautionary tale type of story. Now, if we were to watch Breaking Bad, Walter White, each time he became what's his name? Not Oppenheimer. Walter White had his drug dealer name. I forgot it. How could I forget? It's been a while since I watched it. But anyway, Walter White, before he became that guy, while he was becoming that guy, there were things around him that we could see that this is going to lead to his demise. There were consequences each time he made a decision that shows him to be a growing tyrant, a growing evil guy. We could see that this is going to lead to his downfall. And so for me, there's an expectation to see exactly that. But I don't see it. So dude says, I'm sorry, doctor. The skills you taught me will prove valuable in that your legacy will live on through me as I rise. Now, I don't know if he killed him because his eyes are still, but he actually looks dead, hey? Did he kill him? Because, bro, if he actually killed him, then nah, bro. That's just terrible. Absolutely terrible. Unacceptable. Now we're at chapter 3, and Seiki has joined a dojo where he beats everybody senseless there and threatens to tell the shogun how weak this dojo is unless they give him hush money, right? And so they do give him the hush money, and he decides to go to a nearby bar, gets himself some good tea, hussy offering him that booty, but he ain't got the time. And some bandits see that he got all kinds of money and wants some of that money, and he decides to defend himself. Cuts down, not kill them, but cuts down the bandits, and he demands money for his inconvenience. But the owner of the shop says, "Hey man, there's a nice bathhouse uptown. Go ahead and enjoy yourself." And so he takes the the chance to do so, goes into the women's bathhouse, right? And they just have a somewhat interesting conversation. Well, not even really interesting, but um, this conversation here is a setup in a way to set up what happens next. So it wasn't completely pointless and useless, right? Um, but it was a setup in which one of the women he spoke to, which he'll meet right now, and she's being attacked by a bunch of bandits. He saves her, then realizes that, oh, you're the woman at the bathhouse. Okay, and she says, well, thanks for saving me. I'll take you to my husband, who is the shogun of, is it the shogun or the daimyo? Whatever. He's the ruler of the area. And finally, we are at the last chapter, and suddenly the art style has changed. Completely changed. There's less gray tones and so on, but the rendering is completely different, and it broke my immersion. So anyway, Seiki is brought here, and we're introduced to members of this ruler's dojo. And I gotta say, bro, it's hard to see a lot what's happening here, because the rendering is just it's not so great. It's not so great, it's hard to see what's going on, honestly. There's a bit too much black and a bit too much white. It's not well balanced, I would say. I think there was because if we look at Passable again, you see, Passable is a simplification of standard. So instead of trying to create highlights on every page where a character is wearing black or has black hair, it would have been okay to just leave it as a solid black. You see, because these highlights, honestly, they're a bit too much, right? It's like you put too much information, too much food on the dish, on the plate. You could have lessened it. If you applied Passable, just make sure there's contrast, make sure the composition is good, make sure the facial expressions are vivid, and make sure that panel flow is cool. You would have been good. But when things feel too much, right, it's an overcompensation for something lacking. It's like you're lacking in this department of good shape language or anatomy. So you're trying to overcompensate by putting all these highlights everywhere, which just destroys the experience, honestly. So we then fast forward where the ruler of the region is angry with his wife that, hey, how dare you bring a vagabond here, yada yada. And she says, well, he saved me, yada yada yada. Give him a chance. And so the ruler gives him a chance to go fight somebody in the dojo so he can be accepted into the house. And battle begins. And yeah, long story short, Seiki wins the battle, right? And he wins the battle by paralyzing the guy who was fighting against, using the technique he learned from the doctor. And he wins. Though everybody at the dojo does not accept this, and one of them says, you know what, you're going to fight me next. But Seiki realizes that he's going to get killed over here. And I'm actually surprised that, wait, Seiki was actually saying, wait, I yield? And he wanted to escape? That's bizarre to me, because I thought Seiki's power level was up there. I would have never actually suspected him to back down from a challenge. Maybe de-escalate the situation, but not actually say, I yield. That felt out of character for him. I mean, he hasn't lost a single fight ever since, why all of a sudden he's like, nah, I'm not gonna fight this guy. Why? Even the guy himself doesn't look so intimidating. Not at all. So this felt out of character for me. He was not all of a sudden, he was correctly arrogant because he kept getting away from the other samurai looking for him, He threatened the hussy. He probably killed the doctor. He kept getting away with it. He killed 5 men who were trying to grape the ruler's wife, and he beat up all the guys in the bar who wanted his money. So all of a sudden, he's scared of some nobody that we don't know. I mean, this nobody doesn't even have that aura to show that, yeah, he's all about that life. So it was really bizarre. But anyway, the ruler steps in and says, look, he's proven himself. Just take him to his new quarters. He's going to work for us now. And all the other masters in the dojo are upset about this. They don't accept this, but they realize that they have to obey the orders of their master. And that's pretty much it. And the story ends, the book ends with Seiki somewhat being satisfied with himself, saying, this is a small domain, but how far can I rise here? I stipend of 2,000 koku, I can make it more. Once I master Yaoshi's secret technique and best his students, he will marry me to his daughter. Then I can continue to climb. This is my chance to be Daimo. So the guy, unfortunately, is a psychopath. You know, this is not a likable character. That's what I said in the beginning. He starts off likable, but the moment he loses humanity, bro, he's no longer likable. That's not making him relatable. He's actually a villain now, right? He doesn't care about anyone or anything except, you know, getting his goal accomplished. And that would be fine to have such tunnel vision, but at the expense of your humanity, no, you're no longer a hero. That's no longer inspiring. What makes Kingdom, the manga, right? Let's type it in here. Kingdom manga, right? Is that the characters actually wrestle with their terrible decisions while trying to keep their humanity. There's a wrestling of that. You know, there's extreme brutality in this manga, right? Because in a way, the characters here are fighting for their own bag, their own respect, to get up there in rank, to remove themselves from the lower class. But they don't abandon their humanity. They still try to cling on to it. And sometimes it serves as a weakness, but then it also makes them stronger. But here, there's a complete abandonment of his humanity, making him just a psycho. He's Patrick Bateman, right? You guys remember American Psycho? Straight up Patrick Bateman vibes. You watch this movie, you're gonna hate Patrick Bateman here. Like, he's a quote-unquote Sigma male, but he is so unlikable, irredeemable. There are times where it looks like he can be redeemed, but man, the one thing I love about this movie is the ending. The ending is really, really deep, where in a way he looks for his punishment. He looks for righteous vengeance upon him, but it doesn't come. It doesn't happen. He keeps getting away with it, right? And it's driving him insane. He's like the Joker in Batman the Dark Knight animated movie, where Joker wanted to be killed by Batman. You see, he wanted vengeance and justice to take his life. But Batman kept saying, no, 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 until he eventually, he didn't even kill him in the end. Joker ended up killing himself, right? So what we have here, unfortunately, bro, it just feels like a Patrick Bateman type main character. It's not pleasant. It's not inspiring. If it's to serve a cautionary tale, there isn't enough moments that show us that this guy is digging his own grave. So that's the fundamental problem here, right? Oh, terms used in the book, you put them at the back of the book. Oh, okay. Well, okay, that's fine. That's fine. But anyway, that's it for now. As a American comic book, I will give this. I'll give this a 7 out of 10. You know, it's cohesive. The character has goals. We see him. We see his descent into complete insanity. Um, but unfortunately, because there aren't any sprinkles that show us that he's going to be doomed. Like, you know, in the Joker movie, in the first one, there was always this looming feeling that Joker is going to get caught for what he's doing, right? We see the police looking for him, you know. Now, it happened here as well, where the samurai were looking for him, but it happened just once. There are other ways as well, aside from the police looking for Joker. There are other things he did that shows that this guy, if he keeps going like this, he's going to get caught. And we look forward to his rightfully so downfall. But in this one, it looks like he's just going to keep getting away with things, right? And the worst part is, he doesn't have a rival. No one's challenging him at an ideological level. His own conscience has been seared with a hot iron. It doesn't exist. His humanity's gone, so he's not wrestling with his decisions. There isn't a side character that is actually wrestling and challenging him on the decisions he's making. So there isn't enough conflict. We see a conflict of swords and fists, but there is not a conflict of ideas. There's not a conflict of ambitions. And without a conflict of ideas and ambitions here, it becomes a one-dimensional story. You see? And it does not become impactful or memorable. So I asked the author that in the next book, you can implement these ideas that I'm sharing right now. Let there be a conflict of ambitions and interests and ideologies. Let somebody challenge him. Not because they are jealous, but because the person challenging him is a good person. You know, so far we've seen only one good person, which was the doctor. Because Uchida, he did a good deed by bringing him in, but let's face it, he just was using him. But he cared, you know, he cared. But let's have somebody who's going to challenge him. Somebody who's actually good, so that they can become rivals. That's it for now. You want your own review, it's $40 per chapter. And you can send me a message on Instagram for that. Until next time.